Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are covering more X-Men. We're going to be looking at the second issue of the brand new X-Men series. If you didn't check out the video for the first issue, go ahead and check it out here and come back. This one actually takes a really weird, really sudden left turn, but I'm actually kind of into it. So this issue opens up with a man named Ben sitting down, huddled up next to the curb of a public street, muttering to himself, saying, they're coming back for me. A man approaches him and kneels down next to him, saying, Ben, it's Keith, the social worker. Remember? Who's coming back? Has someone been hassling you? Before Ben's eyes start glowing and he says, you gotta get away. They were never gonna let me go. They've only come to just take me back. And then we see an explosion of purple light before cutting to present day, where the X-Men are actually headed into California, far away from their Alaskan base, to see a full-on alien invasion above their heads, as Cyclops announces from inside the ship to the people, saying, this is Cyclops of the X-Men broadcasting from the Marauder, which is their ship. We are here to help. And Quentin's in the seat next to him saying, we're here to help? God, Summers, just keep blowing those kisses, why don't you? And Cyclops looks at him and says, well, if I told him why we were really here, that wouldn't really calm him down, would it? So already we're seeing the super different version of the X-Men still maintain that same light level of cynicism and secrecy that we saw at the end of the first issue, where Cyclops was talking about how much humanity owes them. But this begs the question, if they're not here to stop the alien invasion, what are they here for? And we actually get a quick explanation for this, where Cyclops announces to the team, alright X-Men, we've been tracking a brand new mutant on Cerebro, and he seems to be right in the middle of this crisis zone. So, business as usual. Now finding the mutant is our main priority, but we're obviously not just gonna let these aliens invade. San Francisco has been good to the X-Men. Helping humans makes our lives easier. I want Magik and Psylocke with me. Temper, Juggernaut, and Quentin, you guys are on alien duty. Take care of us in the skies while we take care of the ground. And Quentin says, it's Kid Omega. Cyclops is like, you know I hate calling you that. And Kid Omega says, that's why I want you to call me it. Magik transports the ground team to the streets of San Francisco, and Kid Omega actually transfers the Cerebro tracking data of the mutant to Cyclops' visor. So maybe one tiny little detail to justify why Cyclops' look is so different, and the three of them charge into battle to fight the aliens on the ground. Magik asks her leader, you worried about the little green men, Cyclops? He says, worried? I have two wildly dangerous women with enormous swords looking out for me. When I was like 13, this was what heaven looked like. And then we go back up in the skies to see Kid Omega at the controls of the ship just absolutely blasting these aliens to death, sending out both physical and psychic attacks. Juggernaut, with his arms crossed, says, alright, enough of this. I want to take a swing at the mothership. And Quentin just screams, get in the mass driver, Juggernaut. Get in the mass driver, or Temper will have to do it. And Juggernaut's like, what? I said I want to get in the mass driver. And Temper's like, he's just quoting his dumb cartoons, and he didn't even get the reference right. Come on, Kane, let's get you ready for your big entrance. And they fly up to the thing. And I just want to cut in here for a second and just highlight even further. Pretty sure I touched on this in the last issue, but like, again, Jed MacKay is doing such a good job establishing these new character dynamics of this team. And it's like, usually when I read an X-Men book, I like it to be the A-list characters. I don't really care for like the lesser known X-Men. I'm not a huge mega X-Men fan. I just kind of read the general popular stuff. You know, I know the characters that pretty much everyone knows, and those are the characters I like. I barely even care about Psylocke and Magik. So to have a team like this where it's just a bunch of completely random characters jumbled together and see it work so well is really, really cool. All of these characters just work together. The humor is so well timed, and I just love it. They all bounce off each other really well, and you know, there's a good mixture of power so that pretty much on every layer, the team just works. It's really, really cool, and I think it helps sell this book post-Krakoa. Back with the ground team, Cyclops says, something is strange here as they fight through the aliens. I can't imagine what would make you think that, Cyclops. Psylocke responds. Objection, Magik says. None of this is weird to me at all. You guys are just both nerds. And Cyclops ignores both of them and says, in this entire galaxy, there has only ever been contact with two different alien species that look like this. But these aliens are not either of those species. We've never seen these guys before. So who are they? And Magik picks one up by the throat and says, let's ask, shall we? And Psylocke starts reading its mind. We then see Temper and Juggernaut back at this mass driver thing, and Juggernaut gets in saying, I've been wanting to test this thing out since McCoy dreamed the whole thing up. And I just gotta say, it's nice to have like these little references between each books. If you haven't seen the other videos where they've kind of referenced to this team, go ahead and check the playlist out here. We've been covering all the major issues of this new X-Men relaunch that Marvel's doing. And just to get little pieces here, little mentions of Hank, even when he's not there, to hear Rogue mention him in the Uncanny X-Men book, to see Cyclops in that book for a second, to see him in Phoenix and her series. You know, it's just cool. It's cool. It feels like, you know, the whole thing is still connected. You know, this species is still together. They still have an interconnected army. So like, even though they're all split up into different books now, they're still together. They all still maintain those relationships. That's just really cool to me. Even though Hank is in this book, you know, they're just always mentioning people that aren't there, and I just think that's really cool. Temper then takes on the controls of the mass driver, locks it in, loads it, and Quentin screams, fire! Before the mass driver starts whirring, Temper heaves the joysticks back back, and Juggernaut goes flying out of the cannon, shooting directly into the mothership up above, causing a gigantic explosion. Back with the ground team, we see what Psylocke uncovers by reading this alien's mind, and she actually says that it doesn't have any thoughts. Cyclops, she says, I don't think it's real. I don't think any of this is real. What? He says. Looking up in the sky, Magik says, the saucers, the mothership. You notice whenever they get destroyed, they just disintegrate. They fade away into smoke. Did you notice the effect whenever we would trash their battle suits? There's no explosion. They don't stick around. They disappear. Cyclops looks up and says, oh god, this isn't an alien invasion at all. It's our mutant, the one we're tracking. Whether or not they know it, they created this whole thing. It's a reality warper. They all start running towards the tracking data, Cyclops leading them, saying, we need to secure them and get the hell out of here before anyone else figures this out. It's gonna make it so much worse for mutants if we're starting literal alien invasions. They then come across a horde of aliens in the street. Looks like we're gonna fight our way through. Magik says, is that a problem? Never, she answers, pulling out her sword. We then follow up with Ben and his social worker, saying, no, I won't go back. I won't let you hurt me again. So it really becomes a question, if this is him doing the whole, reality warping and none of the aliens are real, is his whole thing about how, like, apparently he seems to believe that he's been abducted by aliens before, and that's what the whole thing is. So is this just in his head, or is the manifestation because of the fact that he actually was taken by aliens before? We then see a flash of red light before it cuts to the X-Men standing over them, with Cyclops saying, I know you're scared, but you don't have to be. We're the X-Men, and we're here to help you. I don't understand, Ben says, still pushed up against the fence. My name is Scott. I'm a mutant, just like you. It's okay. The aliens, all of this, it's just your powers, but we can help you. We can help you get them under control. We then see Ben start to light up again. I can't be a mutant. I'm too old. I would have known. And Cyclops, trying to push through, says, Ben, just listen to me. Listen to my voice. We tracked your X gene here today because your powers only manifested today. I don't know why it didn't happen when you were younger, but it's happened. It's happening now, and we need to get you out of here. And then he explodes, saying, no, you want to take me away in your spaceship. And he sends them all flying. Cyclops gets up, saying, emergency status, psychic comms only. And almost as if Kid Omega had read his mind, he says over the psychic link, do not speak out loud. And then we sit there for a second, watching Magik, Psylocke, and Cyclops listen to whatever Kid Omega is saying in their heads before Cyclops says, okay. And we can basically just tell whatever he said here is going to factor into what we're about to see. Cyclops addresses him again and says, Ben, calm down, please. And Ben stands tall at full power still, saying, I was abducted. There was a flying saucer, a light. They did things to me. We can get to the bottom of it together. My friends and I, we can help you. Cyclops says, we'll figure this out. And Ben cuts him off. No, I'm never going back. And we see this defeated look on his face before an explosion of purple light, Cyclops once again screaming out for him, before we see complete emptiness in the alleyway, nothing but smoke pouring out. No, Cyclops says. He's gone. Magik answers. Damn it. It didn't have to end like this. Quentin, Psylocke says, pick us up. We're done here. And we see the social worker still just standing there. Ben is a mutant? And they walk away saying, was. Like too many I've known, he was a mutant. And in the last page, we go back to the Alaskan factory with Cyclops in a lab with Beast and Magneto, saying, and that was that. And then we came back home, right after Ben had burned himself completely out of existence on the street in San Francisco. And then we see them surrounding a hospital bed with Ben in it, which is what we needed people to think. Cyclops finishes. Between Illyana and Quentin, it was a very convincing death, but now it's up to us to figure out what happened to him. And when I read this and I saw that that was the ending, I was so confused because Jed MacKay doesn't really spell it out here. And so I went back and read this, which I'm pretty sure is how it was intended to be read. And I was like, oh, between Illyana and Quentin, right? So we go back to this scene where Ben is going Super Saiyan right after Kid Omega had told them not to speak and said whatever he said that we couldn't hear. And we see a little display of psychic power that you may or may not have noticed we've seen before, right as Ben is ramping it up and going completely out of control. And then we look at this defeated look as Ben is saying, I'm never going back. And then you realize, oh, Quentin Quire, Kid Omega, his whole thing is psychic manipulation. This is him putting him to sleep. This is him psychically influencing him. And then Illyana, Magik, has the power of teleportation. She did it at the very beginning of this issue. So basically, as Ben was freaking out, there was this huge display of power right before Kid Omega put him to sleep and Magik teleported him out of there. So I completely missed that on the first read. I had to go back and look, but that's how they pulled it off. The only thing I'm like weird about is why not do something with a social worker? Like they couldn't like do something with his mind so that it looked, I mean, because the whole thing was they didn't want a mutant to be blamed for the whole alien invasion. But if he knows that's one person, like does that not come back later in the series? I feel like it does, especially with the cover of issue number 3. Like is that going to immediately come back and bite them? I don't know. It seems like a huge oversight on someone like Cyclops' part, but whatever. For the plot, right? Unless it doesn't come back. in that case.
That's just lazy writing.
And also, I want to mention, the reason that I brought up earlier, you know, whether or not Ben had actually been abducted by aliens, is because, like he said, he can't be a mutant because he's too old. He would have known. You know, the X gene activates in teenagers going through puberty. Ben, if it wasn't clear, is a grown man. But that also brings up an interesting point, because at the end of this issue, when Cyclops says it's up to us to figure out what happened to him, first thing I think back to is the first issue with the Fourth Army. You know, the whole rumors about them harvesting mutant biology, mutant body parts, and then kind of Frankensteining themselves so that they can have mutant powers. But then finding out that the Fourth Army wasn't, they were just actual mutants. So it's like, maybe he was taken, but it wasn't necessarily by aliens, unless the Fourth Army are aliens, right? Maybe it has something to do with that. Maybe they took him and did something to him, set him out free into the world to kind of start making mutants look messy again. Maybe it was just a huge plan that affected an innocent person who wasn't a mutant before. That's just where my mind is going with it. It might be something completely different, I don't know. Very, very interesting though. I really do think that Jed MacKay is doing an awesome job with this. You know, like I said, again, I know not everyone, especially the hardcore X-Men fans, is a fan of the whole post-Krakoa thing, like the fall of X. I know it still leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and I understand why, but I'm not mad at this. I think the quality is there. You know, you can find problems here and there, you can pick it apart, but like generally, on the whole, I think it's pretty good. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know if you want me to continue this series with issue number 3. If you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, that is the video. Thank you for watching.